Do we attract business opportunities?
Yeah, exactly. And are they good? Sort of high quality?
So you go out and find them, or there's a lot of stuff coming to you now.
Very, very important in my mind as a business person to magnetize your company. And we very successfully attempted to magnetize our company to 4 constituents. Advertisers, we made a decision, only global brands. So if we decide, it's nice to say we're going to do advertising, but if we would have determined not to take only global brands, the first brands in would have been crap brands, then the difficulty in attracting global brands would have been monumental, as even the YouTube and MySpace are experiencing today. So we have 60 global brands and basically no crap brands on our network at a cost of revenue. That was a decision we made. By having that group of global brands, we magnetize ourselves to more global brands. We magnetize ourselves to audience by passing through content even if we don't own it, and passing through other people's advertising to make sure our audience is comfortable. A lot of people would say only our stuff on our network. To magnetize to the producers, we try to give the top-level producers a way to make the most money, and everybody gets access to the network for free, so that's nice. To magnetize ourselves to engineers, interestingly enough, was the hardest part for me. Because until we grew to a certain extent, we were bootstrapped in the kind of talent we wanted to bring in because we're defining an entirely new mental design engineering market space. So the DNA, as Ray likes to say, of our company really leaned toward the media side, and the biggest challenge was leadership in engineering. We had plenty of good rank and file, and 70% of our company is in development and product. But to find the right leadership who understood what we're doing has been an ongoing, the most challenging of those 4.
Let me say 2 things. If you walk into Podshow, you don't see your standard Silicon Valley company. You see people developing content. You see people, figuring out how it will be listened to and how it'll be integrated. And everybody's on headphones and everybody's watching stuff. I mean, it's a very interactive, live, open pit environment for the way this works. The second thing is, when Ron first mentioned advertisers, that a lot of these global brands bring really boring advertising. So if you take advertising off of television or radio and try to put it into this medium, it doesn't work. And Ron and Adam are strong enough to say, we want your brand, but let us help you develop cool advertising that people will listen to. Because if you just take, like the CEO of Daimler Chrysler, remember when he went on TV and he was doing these ads and he said, I'm the, he thought that was really cool. It just wouldn't play on Podshow. And so you have to have, so we actually have gotten into things like user-generating advertising. Well, for the first time, I understand the Super Bowl is actually going to have some user-generated ads. Ron was doing that a year ago for Earthlink. Earthlink had some really boring ads. And good company, but they had a contest. In fact, Adam's show had a contest for, this lasted quite a bit of time, to make advertising for Earthlink, and the number one ad, the one they started using. So they're sounding a lot cooler. Well, now my favorite thing to do is set up Ron with some of the, because I know a lot of CEOs in Fortune 500 companies that I've maintained relationships with, and I say, they say, well, we're getting into this podcasting stuff. We mentioned we've invested in a Podshow or podcasting company. We're getting into that. We're doing a lot of podcasting. Tina said, we're doing a lot of podcasting here at Stanford. And if you let Ron look at your podcasting, chances are he will tell you why it is probably not, other than just simply script that's put on, some kind of digital media and streamed, it's not entertaining. It's got to be entertaining if it goes into Podshow, including ads. The ads have to fit the entertainment, kind of genre. And so, I think a big contribution Podshow is going to make is to the development of advertising as content that you want to listen to. It's the same way. We will. A lot of us watch the Super Bowl just for the ads, right? And it's that concept. So
this year, one of our biggest advertisers is GoDaddy. We created 60. They value a lifetime value of $200 to $500 per customer. In 4 months, we created 60,000 customers for them. So it's a pretty interesting campaign. So we like them, they like us. They got a great product, which is why we can sell it, and they're open-minded about how we sell it. They offered us an opportunity to influence their Super Bowl ad. The last Super Bowl ad we influenced was 1995, where we put 2 ads in the Super Bowl, one for Oracle. And we had fun then, but we thought it was old school to influence a Super Bowl ad. Now it doesn't make sense for us. Everybody's doing it. So if everybody's doing user-generated fake Super Bowl ads, we don't want to do that. We have to find something else to do. One of the greatest joys in the world as an entrepreneur is the ability to say no. And the minute you start saying yes to everybody and thinking there's a solution for everything, you're really messing yourself up because you get no respect in the community in which you're operating. So we spend a lot of time, and we're very proud of it, telling advertisers no. No. I understand that's how you want to do it, but our audience won't accept it. And sometimes we say, I tell you what, we'll run your let us do the campaign, we'll run it for free. If you don't like it, don't pay us. You can do a few of those. Sometimes we say, we will not accept your advertising. And they'll come back in a month or a week or a year and double up. So, just on the advice side, to have a little bit of self-esteem about the brand and the product that you push out, to feel good about what you're doing is a passion that communicates to the people to which you're going to sell.
Just curious on just what you just said there, if the goal is to become a bigger and bigger company and you guys have an approval process for your advertisers, how does that process scale up as the business generates more and more content, more and more traffic? If there's this very explicit sort of editorial approval process that you guys have in order to make sure that your advertisers are well placed, how do you think about that?
Well, I have a philosophy. Go ahead.
You want to repeat the question?
So how do
you scale up if you are exercising editorial constraint? If you're,
Why do you exercise constraint in a marketplace? Because you want to create an environment that opposes some other methodology. Right now, the online advertising marketplace is being driven by Google, which is having the absolute opposite effect, which is selling links, which is driving, in many cases, down the value of advertising and created a CPM market. We looked at that market and realized that is a really good market for creating a baseline relationship, but a really bad market for creating a branding relationship. So we said, if that's a bad market, who's going to have the good markets? Well, we think we have a pretty good market. Can we defend that claim? Yes. We have 50 million downloads. We have loyal users. Top 20% of our network does 80% of our downloads, which means we have deep, lasting relationships. We hit them again and again. It's not a one-off and one-off. So we go to a brand and we say, we go with the mentality that we want the brands to compete to be on our network. That will scale when you have $55 billion worth of advertisement spent on television and radio, and the audience is decreasing at 30% per year, so there's the inverse economies of scale driving a decision-making process. Our gamble is that brands are going to want to connect with their audience, and if we can keep the quality of advertising, there's no law that says advertising, somewhere in the last 30 years, advertising and content bifurcated. And if you go back and study radio and television, it's the slot law that changed it. 24 minutes of programming, 6 minutes of advertising, syndication. If all of you study up on that, it's very interesting. The internet says we don't need that. Formats are transportable and transmutable. We can incorporate advertising any way we want, which gives advertising a chance to become content again. Brands realize that before advertising agencies, so you start by showing case studies. To do $500 million in internet advertising as one company and still have people lined up outside the door, for example, is not going to be a problem. We also do our sales with a very small sales force, increasingly large numbers for smaller and tighter brands.
Music to my ears.
We got a way to go, but we're working on it.
You mentioned about the quality of the content that's on your site. When you're user-generated, user is generating the content may not be good quality. How does the balance happen?
Well, the audience, you want to know how do we understand if content is good quality? Well, the social media network in itself promotes what they think is good and identifies what they think is interesting. So content is good or interesting for a variety of reasons, like life is. This piece of content is good for today because it's topical and it's stupid, and I'm going to dispose of it. But on the other hand, this show is really interesting, and I'm going to dedicate 30 minutes of my week each week to consuming it. We believe you should serve, this music is great, so I'm going to follow this artist. All of that is in our content ecosphere, but the top, most powerful content on our network is led by shows. And shows are what some people would call podcasts, but it is serialized content. So the audience, out of the almost 5,000 shows on our network, the top 300 really do the meat of the business. We watch the other 4,000 or so, and we see what's beginning to percolate. As something looked good or interesting based on audience response or our intuition, qualitative and quantitatively driven, we sick ourselves on that property, as we call it, that media property, and attempt to develop it. So we give, as the shows and programs are learning from each other, we also try to inject some fuel into them. We can also promote them across our network. So it is a qualitative and quantitative process that seems to be working now. We also directly produce 40 or 50 shows, and indirectly produce about 200 shows that we watch every week. They are managed by producers on our network that make sure that at the very minimum across the food chain we have a decent program in every category.